matters is what we have on the inside. Hello? It's the worldwide privacy tour. Come on. We want privacy. We want privacy. Down with the motorhead. We deserve our privacy. These people.
Yeah, nobody set out to destroy you. You destroyed yourselves in this country with your ludicrous, hypocritical behaviour. Truth be told, what you just said is complete and utter garbage.
Meghan Markle, once the face of empowerment and elegance, is now the punchline of a viral story she can't control. A single South Park episode has unraveled the image, and behind the scenes, panic has set. Even Harry is reportedly bouncing between crisis calls and silent recovery. But the most brutal truth is that it's not just satire anymore, it's exposure. As Meghan's brand buckles under mockery and Harry's credibility sinks, the palace remains coldly silent. When the episode first dropped, it was crude and exaggerated. Typical South Park, but then the edits began. TikTok creators began putting actual footage from Harry and Meghan's Netflix docuseries alongside scenes from the parody. The resemblance was unsettling. Suddenly, what should have been harmless comedy began morphing into something more damaging. Viewers weren't just laughing, they were comparing, connecting, and questioning. The jokes landed with frightening precision. South Park mocked Meghan's pregnancy reveal video, calling out the fake tears and vulnerability. In the parody, she twerks while a pillow of truth jiggles under her shirt. Absurd. Yes, but somehow not far off from the real footage. That's the danger. Insiders say Harry was initially dismissive. Social media exploded overnight, pushing clips of cartoon Meghan into every part of the internet. Even loyal fans began to join in. It wasn't just offensive, it was accurate. For Meghan, this wasn't just a parody, it was a brand nightmare. Everything she'd spent years building, the image of a modern woman, a strong mother, a compassionate activist, was breaking. Panic soon hit the Sussex brand. What began as mockery quickly escalated into a reputational emergency. Meghan and Harry's legal team, split between the US and the UK, started holding back-to-back meetings, desperate to find a legal path forward. Every angle was explored, dissected, and ultimately discarded. The problem was painfully clear. South Park and its satire was protected, according to sources. Meghan's lead legal advisor put it bluntly: unless they say Harry eats rocks or Meghan gave birth to a dolphin, we've got nothing. That brutal honesty set the tone for the days that followed. They weren't preparing for a lawsuit, they were preparing to lose the narrative war. One internal memo, now infamous within the Sussex circle, captured the issue perfectly. You can't parody a lie if it's already self-published. Because the hard truth was, the parody hadn't invented anything. It just reframed what Meghan and Harry had already put out there into something the public could laugh at, behind closed doors. Harry tried pulling strings with old media contacts. Maybe someone on the inside would listen to him. But the response was cold. One exec, who had once taken selfies with Meghan at a Netflix party, replied with a single sentence: comedy is currency and they own the mint. With legal action off the table, the focus turned to PR, but that turned out to be just as chaotic. Meghan's advisors mapped out every possible response, and each option looked worse than the last. There was no good move, just varying levels of disaster. Veteran PR consultants, some of whom had once worked with the royal family, warned Harry that doing nothing would seem weak, but doing something might be even worse. One insider reportedly told him, if the Queen survived dancing corgis, you can survive this. But this wasn't just about one joke, it was about identity. Meghan had built a public image that was polished, inspiring, and serious. The South Park episode didn't just mock that image, it destroyed it, and now, everything she did was being reinterpreted through a comedic lens. The damage wasn't just to their reputation, it was her narrative control slipping. Meghan's team then floated the idea of addressing the issue directly. Maybe a candid post or a short video brushing off the parody with humor, but it was, again, shut down. One PR veteran reportedly said, you can't fight a meme with a thesis. If you try to explain the joke, you've already lost. Even allies within their media circle began backing away. Several reporters declined to cover the story, and a few sympathetic channels ghosted entirely. Behind the scenes, some publishers were quietly advising clients to avoid taking sides. The Sussexes weren't just battling mockery anymore, they were facing isolation. With legal threats going nowhere and PR strategies falling flat, Meghan turned to the last group she thought might still have her back: influencers. The same online personalities who once gushed over her skincare line and praised her genuine aura were now being quietly asked to help steer the narrative. The pitch was to frame the parody as more than tasteless, frame it as misogynistic. Mocking a pregnant woman isn't edgy, one draft message read. It's lazy and cruel. But the internet wasn't buying it, and neither were the influencers. One wellness coach known for championing maternal empowerment reportedly responded with brutal honesty: "I like Meghan, but the internet's in roast mode right now. I'm not diving into that fire pit." Others wanted real money, five-figure money, and even that didn't guarantee support. The sentiment was clear: if the Sussexes wanted backup, they'd have to buy it, and even then, it might backfire. The campaign stalled before it ever really began. Even previously, the loyal fan pages began disabling comments, fearing they'd be dragged into the chaos too. Worse still, the South Park clips weren't fading, they were multiplying. And soon the line between parody and reality was blurring, until it was barely visible. The message was harsh but true. This isn't satire. This is a reflection. And once influencers started avoiding the Sussexes to protect their own brands, the couple's online empire began to wobble. Meghan had built her public persona in part through social media with gentle aesthetics, shared values, and soft-focused lifestyle branding. Now, those same platforms were turning on her with ruthless efficiency. And for a brand that depended on control, that loss of influence hit hard. By the time the parody had fully controlled the internet, the tone had turned from mockery to cruelty. The internet had slipped into what insiders called attack mode. And at the center of it all was Harry, whose awkward body language, stiff delivery, and behind-the-scenes vulnerability were now punchlines. The difference between fiction and fact had all but vanished. Sentiment analysis dashboards reportedly painted a dark picture. Their online engagement had skyrocketed, but 61% of it was labeled mockery, 27% sarcasm, 8% defense, and just 4% undecided. That means the internet wasn't even debating if the episode was funny, it was debating just how far to take the ridicule. For most viewers, it was entertainment. But for Harry and Meghan, it was reputational collapse. Even Meghan's fan pages, once aggressively loyal, began hiding. Many disabled their comment sections, while others stopped posting entirely. A few tried to spin the narrative, calling the parody deeply inappropriate, but those posts got ratioed immediately. The internet had made up its mind, and it wasn't on Meghan's side. What made it worse was that the mockery started bleeding into professional circles. PR heads, branding consultants, and even sponsors were watching closely. According to one source, at least 2 brands tied to Harry's mental health initiatives quietly asked to reassess logo placement until the chaos passed. This was the nightmare scenario. Mockery with a crowd of millions laughing at a version of you that suddenly feels more real than the original. The digital fallout quickly turned into a branding catastrophe. What had started as a joke online was now disrupting real-world partnerships. For Prince Harry, the blow was immediate. Deeply tied to his image of resilience and service was suddenly under scrutiny. 2 major sponsors reportedly pulled back, requesting to revisit visibility and brand alignment. The Sussex camp understood the truth. Brands don't want their logos anywhere near a punchline. It didn't stop there. Meghan's own lifestyle brand, as ever, began to crumble under the weight of public ridicule. Once described as a thoughtful and a modern answer to wellness and empowerment, was now being put with satirical comparisons to Goop minus the loyal following. Even mainstream media picked it up, framing the sketch as the branding backfire of the year. The ripple effect was brutal. Influencers who once aligned with Meghan started distancing themselves entirely. Some deleted past collaborations. Others issued soft statements about staying neutral during sensitive times. Meghan's brand, built on relatability, was suddenly a liability. Her authenticity, once a selling point, had become a target. Behind the scenes, PR advisors floated everything from rebranding to a full platform hiatus. Some even suggested pulling as ever off shelves temporarily to avoid further mockery, but Meghan resisted. According to one staffer, she was adamant that the brand could face the backlash. Still, morale was plummeting. The harsh truth was setting in. This wasn't about a little bad press or one unfortunate headline. It was about perception, a slow rewriting of everything Meghan had tried to build. And no careful product launch or post could undo the internet's decision to turn her brand into comedy. By now, even the Sussexes' most trusted advisors had reached the same conclusion, that there was no clean way out. But they still had to try something. Option 1. Embrace the cringe. Release a casual, unscripted video showing Meghan and Harry laughing about the whole thing. Something light, something real. The goal is to gain relatability. If they can show they're in on the joke, maybe they take back some control. But the risk risk is high. South Park is infamous for turning every reaction into new material. One advisor put it bluntly: if your laugh becomes the punchline, you lose forever. Option 2. Turn the mockery into a movement. Take the parody and reframe it. Use it as a springboard for a campaign against online bullying or the mistreatment of pregnant women in the public eye. Bring in maternal health experts, donate some ad revenue, and spotlight real issues. Reposition Meghan as a target of unfair ridicule and shift the narrative toward empathy. But in execution, it could lead to a permanent collapse. If the campaign feels even slightly calculated, it risks being called out as fake outrage disguised as activism. Every team meeting ended with the same reality: nothing can unrelease what South Park put into the world. No podcast appearance, charity, gala, or heartfelt Instagram post can compete with that. Because in the age of the internet, identity isn't controlled, it's mocked. While Meghan and Harry scrambled behind the scenes, Buckingham Palace remained utterly silent. No denials, no defense, not even a vague show of sympathy. Just a quiet, pointed quote circulated by palace insiders: if he monetized the crown, he can't cry when it gets parodied. And deep down, even Harry knew this storm was about consequences inside their Montecito compound. The mood turned grim. One staffer reportedly described it as emotional trench warfare. Harry's demeanor swung wildly hopeful after one strategy session. Dim by evening, Meghan, meanwhile, became more withdrawn. Sources say her focus shifted from repairing her public image to preventing internal leaks. Trust was eroding. Advisors started asking questions. Should they cancel upcoming speeches? Delay product launches? Go completely dark? No one had answers. The only consensus was that they were losing the narrative fast. Outside their walls, the internet's laughter grew louder. New parody edits surfaced, daily clips of cartoon Meghan demanding more sparkle, layered over real Netflix scenes. And the joke had then become the lens through which people saw them. What Meghan and Harry had spent years crafting, a story of resilience, love, reinvention, was being overwritten. The cartoon wasn't seen as satire anymore. It was seen as a stripped-down, exaggerated version of them that somehow felt more believable than the polished reality they tried so hard to present. In the end, it wasn't just the mockery that hurt, it was the permanence of it. The idea that no matter how they rebranded, no matter how noble their causes, this might be the version that sticks. Not the royals who walked away, not the activists or entrepreneurs, just two pathetic cartoon characters. This was never just about South Park. It was about perception, how fast it can turn, how easily it can be rewritten, and how helpless even the most powerful can be once the internet decides who they really are. Meghan and Harry lost control of their narrative. And in today's world, that's the most dangerous. Because a parody that lands close enough to truth doesn't fade, it fuses with reality. Now, every time their names trend, it's not their work or their causes people talk about, it's the cartoon mockery. And once that version sticks, no rebranding effort can undo it. It becomes who they are, whether they like it or not. Not because it's accurate or not, but because it's unforgettable.